We always looked to the background of every record we heard. Alex worked in a club at that time. When he opened his night of DJing, he played Das Boot in the original version.
And we saw that people freaked out. They got their light sticks out, and
they loved it
and tried to vogue or dance to this ultra slow wave of sound.
We need to record a dance version of this song. And we did, and we couldn't sell it. It was definitely the first techno track that made the charts.
Das Boot from U96 is probably one of the most memorable techno tracks from the early 90s. In fact, it popularized the phenomenon. Back then, U96 were 4 guys: Alex Christensen, Helmut Hoinkes, and the 2 guys I'm talking to today who are going to tell the story of U96, Hayo Lewerentz and Ingo Hauss. Ingo Hauss and Hayo Lewerentz, welcome. I mean, talking to you both with the names Ingo Hauss and Hayo Lewerentz seems a bit strange when there are a million aliases. Bella Laconda, oh God, it goes on. The Pana, Info, Harry.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, my real name is Stephen James, and I had to change it to Steve Blaine. So I know what happens when you choose an alias. You actually can adopt a different personality. Is that, for you, the point, to be someone different in a different project?
Well, somehow, because we did so many different projects over the years because U96 was one of them. So we are crazy in our musical taste because that's very wide. So we are not like electro musicians or techno people, just that. We recorded songs just for fun, like a song we did in the late 80s called Ritmo de la Noche, which became a world hit, but we couldn't really communicate that being part of U96.
And therefore we had these Spanish-sounding names like Onda. And then if you're sitting in front of your mixing desk and saying, yeah, okay, I'm Lagonda, let's do some Spanish stuff. Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah.
and that works. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it when you say, because you've had so many different influences and it's not just one direction, which is so true. So I really want to sort of take you back to your early childhood and find out, and maybe, excuse me, maybe Ingo, you could start about what sort of music you were brought up around.
I must admit, I was really nerdy. I was a total nerd. With 12 years, I listened to jazz, to piano music, to Thelonious Monk and stuff like this. And was quite hard in school because nobody else was interested in this.
Was that your parents' music?
No, not very much. So we had some instruments at home, a piano and a guitar. But my parents, they really supported me. So I had a basement with a multi-play tape recorder, a little drum set. And I got everything what I needed. So, but no influence from my parents. So this comes, I don't know where from.
Were you the outsider at school?
Yeah, kind of outsider with a bunch of other people. So we were around 6, 8 guys and girls who listened to strange music, went to art exhibitions and stuff like this. Not playing football, no sports, but drinking. Yeah, okay.
What about you? What sort of music were you brought up around, and where did your music taste start to diverge from your parents?
Well, my mother listened to Shirley Bassey all the time when I was very young, but I started to listen to Roxy music. Was one of the first bands I really was into. David Bowie, obviously, and stuff like that. So I was a bit of the opposite from Ingo, but I wasn't too commercial as well. So I tried to be like with the glam people. If you know what I mean. I was into glam rock and I put on makeup when I was 16. Stuff like that, and I had a friend at the time who is a musician as well. He had a band called Ledernacken. I don't know if you know them. And I worked with him all the time. So he was my guitar teacher and stuff, and he taught me a lot of music. So I took over his like musical taste a bit because he was 3 years older than I am. So this is
it also depends which age. Are we talking about 12 years or 13, or are we talking about 18 or 16?
Well, I think it's sort of the early teens, because if I've said this many times, that being a 13-year-old, I saw Bowie on the TV. Yes. And for me, Bowie was this world where I could belong when I felt I didn't belong at my parents'. Does that resonate with either of you?
Absolutely, 100%, yes, with me. So I don't know about Ingo, but...
No, not at all. So I was...
We were, but this is the magic between us still, because we know each other for more than 40 years now, and we still work together, and we still make music every day. So, which is kind of unusual, we find, for many people from the 90s. They just stopped, or they do like greatest hit shows or stuff. We don't do that. We are not interested.
Okay, there are some bands, Depeche Mode, for example.
Yeah, of course there's some bands, yes. Yes, we're not the only.
I mean, there are many bands that stay together, but a lot of them don't actually talk with each other apart from go on stage. Right, I think that might be the difference. But
we had a little bit of that in the band as well, as you know. So, because we were making the music all the time, so we never parted. So this was always like a combination which was there.
So I want to just go a little bit further about that in terms of music and how you both separately look at music. I don't mean musical styles, but whether one is much more closer to the sound and the feeling, or the artist and the lyrics of music you heard, or you identify in a different way in terms of genres.
Yeah, okay, but when we started producing and seriously writing music and having a vision of maybe having a living with music, out of music, so then also a big part was technology, because we were very, very much into synth samplers and all the knobs, turning knobs, and listening to Frankie Goes to Hollywood. How did they make these sounds? And so we want to have this.
So we wanted to produce like Trevor Horn when we started. So this was a great hero of ours. Yeah. And this is the combination which combined our musical tastes, which were slightly different, obviously, but what the combination was really that we both were into dance music when it came up.
Yeah, and so in the 80s where we met first, then our two ways came together, because I was very much into German Neue Deutsche Welle, Ideal and stuff like this. And then I had a band and I rented a studio, and Hayo was the audio engineer or the owner.
I owned this studio. I had a little studio with a friend, with the Ledernacken guy, and they were like clients. So we met. This is how we met. It was very interesting.
So, but before you met, were you looking at records and identifying, okay, so-and-so's the producer of that record, and someone here is the producer of that record? Were you sort of nerdy in that way as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, we always looked to the background of every record we heard. So who produced the record, who wrote the songs, who was involved as a musician and stuff like that. So it was more than just listening to it. You know, we were not consumers, we were identifiers.
Yeah, it's still like that. So I can't drive with music on, because I listen to the bass line. Oh, this fucking sound! Oh, beep beep! Oh, how did he make it? Oh, this arrangement is great. And then, oh, no way! No drive, no music. Silent.
Well, I drive with music, so we have a different. But sometimes we drive together, and I have to drive while he listens to music.
Yeah. When you met each other, then you decided, okay, maybe there's something here that can work together. How did that process take place, and when did you really decide, let's go for it?
Yeah, but
Right away. I mean, when we met in the studio, I think they left a tape, like a cassette tape, on the mixing desk the day I met them. And I listened to this tape, and there was a song on it called Eine Million, which was like a Neue Deutsche Welle sort of thing.
yeah.
And I loved this song. It was such a great fucking tune, I thought. And so I rang Ingo. I think, I don't know if I rang you or the other guy, Helmut.
Yeah.
It's long ago, but I rang them and said, can we do something? I want to be involved in this.
Yeah,
So this is how it started. And then we started like recording stuff right away.
Yeah, and building little bedroom studios, so in my apartment. So, and
which was complicated at that time. So because that was late 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, when many people start writing music and producing music, they often, in a sense, and I don't mean this directly, but in a sense, sort of copy their idols, and then they move into their own area and they become themselves. Were you identifying closely at that point, let's say, with Trevor Horn or with other producers before you actually found your own identity?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, of course, we tried to do productions which sounded as well as the big names, which we never achieved in the first place, of course, obviously, because we didn't have the studio possibilities, and there was a lack of technique at that time. Now it's different, but at the time, you know, some people had like Fairlights. We didn't have, we didn't own expensive equipment like that. So we started with like more like Neue Deutsche Welle stuff, you know, German singing, and then we had a band where Ingo's wife was singing called Call It Heaven. This was like we released 2 or 3 tracks.
Yeah, this was the initial big bang. So we got a single contract with Warner and a very nice advance.
We were very excited.
Very excited, and we had this black vinyl, and then we thought, that's it. So at this time, I had a job with a music publisher. I immediately quit the job. So, and from this time on, we made music.
Yeah, right.
And slowly it's developing. But to come back, all this technical and producer stuff. So there's also another part that's songwriting, and that's writing music and finding melodies and sitting together, me on the piano, you on drums, and then something comes through the air, and this magic feeling is also a part. It's not only about technology, and this is a part of it, but also there are songs which came to us, and melodies and chords. And
when you work together on the collaboration, has it ever been difficult to sort of make a decision out of something? Because when you're 2 people, and not that I'm saying that there can be conflicts, but there can be obviously one person likes something more than the other person. How have you been able to work around that over the years?
Did we have difficulties?
Not really, no.
Oh.
We never really had difficulties because everyone was hurt. So as long as we worked together, like the 2 of us, and even with U96, it was mainly the 2 of us in the studio. So we made everything, but we weren't behind the scenes. So no one really realized who did it. But we never really had arguments about music. We tried we listened a lot to music, obviously, which was club music at the time. And we had lots of like people we met. Also, you know, we were privately hanging out with Scooter and people like that. So we talked about music all the time anyway.
But okay, talking about music and having influences, but then in the end you have to get the tools out and have to start. And I remember, so I had this little tape recorder with cassette, and then I always played you some ideas, just some chords, just a melody,
Right.
love, 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 love sees no color, or something like this. And then nearly in 90%, you did say, "Oh yeah, that's great.
Absolutely.
Let's work on it."
Yeah.
And that's how it works.
I think Boytronic was sort of the first band, but it started in an odd way. Can you explain that? Because you both weren't actually in it until it sort of dissolved, and then suddenly you were Boytronic.
You're very well informed.
I forgot.
It was a strange situation because at that time we just built a studio together with some friends in Hamburg called Boogie Park, which is still there. It's a big studio, so now it's a very big studio. But we built that with some people at that late 80s, I think, in the 88 or 87. And in that studio, they worked. The guys we worked with Boytronic, which was just a singer at this time. It was two people. One of them was dead already, but the singer was still alive. And they asked us to work with this singer and record some new music with him, which was very, very difficult to work with him. Because he had his own mind, which is fine, But we recorded, I think, 1 or 2 tracks with him, and he wasn't satisfied. So he decided to leave Boytronic and said, "I'm not in this band anymore." And then they asked us if we are interested to form it new because they owned the name of this project.
We jumped in. Why not?
And we jumped in and we said, "Yeah, why not?" So there was just 1 album, I think, out or 2. I can't remember. So we were very young and we didn't really think about it. We just said, "Yes, cool. It's it's our step into the business," and so we did that. And then we recorded like 2 or 3 albums
with a British singer.
With a British singer called Mark Waid. And it was obviously not the original Boytronic, So that went on and on over the years, and we came back and we even recorded an album with the original singer again, which was called Auto Tunes in, I think, 2002 or so. But it was always a difficult story, and it was not really our kind of music so much. For me, it was too much of synth pop, too much.
Stuck in the 80s.
Stuck in the 80s a little bit. So we
did
that.
The original Boytronic with the first 2 albums, there were 2 albums, was very, that you were not in, was very 80s identifiable. Absolutely. And new romantic and, I mean, it was almost like the Steve Strange Visage feel. Yes. Totally. Yes. And then you come along and it's a little bit more commercial. So, I was looking at tracks, which you can find everything when you go down the rabbit hole these days on YouTube. And I was looking at like I Will Survive and tracks like that, which added a touch of commerciality, but also felt very clever for the time. So I don't know, when you say, you've sort of painted it a little bit negative, but I didn't see it like that at all. Actually,
I don't want to paint it negative. We just said because it was a bit of a strange situation because we did not invent this act.
Okay.
It was for us. It was like a bit of we were in between chairs. Can you say that? I don't know. Sitting in between the chairs.
In between stools. It's the same phrase.
Yeah, exactly. So for us, it was like a finding phase. Musically, because we were not really sure if we want to do this sort of electro music like Stuck in the 80s. So we tried to make it a bit more now. And this is how I Will Survive, for example, came about. And the stuff we did with the second singer, with this British guy. And we had lots of fun with it. I mean, it was, we did it. We work in music because we love to work in music, not to make money or be commercial. It's if it happens, it happens. But this is not our main goal.
So when did Alex Christensen come along? When did that contact happen, and how did U96 originally form?
Well, we had this little studio, and I met him in a disco where I went to every Monday, I think it was, called Opera House in Hamburg, in Grünspan, which is a big club here in Hamburg.
The Reeperbahn.
At the Reeperbahn, and they had I think it was always on Mondays or Thursdays, I can't remember. They had this evening called Opera House, where they played like house music, the early techno stuff and things like that. And I met Alex there. He was there with some people I knew, so roughly. And then we talked a little bit about music, and he came to see us in the studio. And then this is how it came about. And he was a DJ at the time, working in a club in Hamburg. So we went to his club, and then we saw what he played, and then we decided to do some records with him. Like a combination of to have a DJ in the band, because we were into club music. So this is how it all came about.
So in a sense, it was just seen in your perspective as another collaboration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was in the first place. It was just a collaboration. We thought it turns out to be.
It was not a band thing or
No.
something like this. No. Just let's work together. Let's see what comes out.
Yes, we all had this love for dance music. This was the main thing. We were into clubs and we were into dance music.
I mean, that era of the late 80s was a really interesting era. Being in London, there would be clubs like Shoom starting. So sort of the acid house movement was sort of picking up there. Dance music was changing massively. And you mentioned Grünspan, and obviously the same thing was going on in Hamburg. There was sort of a big movement. Did you see this period as a very exciting musical period, considering, that you're into electronic music?
Yeah, definitely.
So S-Express, The Shaman, all these great bands, early Prodigy.
It was so exciting, musically, because something different happened nearly every day. You could see some new tracks coming up by bands you have never heard of, and this happened on a regular basis. It was not, it was not like a build-up of a band like in the 70s with Led Zeppelin or so, where they've been built up through 4 or 5 albums. It was just a song that came out and that changed everything. And so,
like Killer. From
Adamski.
From Adamski. What a total new word, and so also connected with technology and the upcoming possibilities with MIDI and computing and sequencing, and so
absolutely. So for us, it was super exciting.
So when we come to the track Das Boot, obviously every German, in fact, I think most English people, everyone knows the film, the Wolfgang Petersen film, and they've seen it. But I remember when I first heard that music and saw the video and the connection to the film and everything, and I just thought, what a absolute brilliant, on the first level, an absolute brilliant idea. So who actually focused in on that idea and thought about, okay, how about turning this Klaus Doldinger music into, this techno anthem, as it were?
It was really easy as well, because, as I said, Alex worked in a club at that time, and we were like regular goers, so we went there a lot. And he played, when he opened his night of DJing, he played Das Boot in the original version.
But was about 60 BPM or 50.
Very slow,
very slow,
the original.
Very dramatic. And then we saw that people freaked out. They got their light sticks out, and
they loved it
and tried to vogue or dance to this ultra slow wave of sound. And then we thought,
then we decided in the studio the next day or 2 days later, I don't know, we came back to it and said we need to record a dance version of this song. And we did, and we couldn't sell it. No one wanted. No one was interested. Everyone said, this is no, we don't want it.
Because the beat came in after 1 minute or so.
Yeah.
So we were
Exactly, yeah.
very innocent producers, virgin producers.
No, not really.
Not really, yeah,
But
yeah.
We
But if you listen to it now, it's really a crazy tune. Crazy stuff. Yeah.
More on that crazy tune and the story of U96 in just a second. But just time for me to ask you to please like, and above all, please subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. And if I can reach 10,000 subscribers this year, I will really hit my goal and this podcast will really start moving. So let's get back to U96 and Hayo Lewerentz and Ingo Hauss. Well, it wasn't that the point of it. It was so original. It was so different for, at that time. Nothing had been created in that way. So when you say that you had problems selling it, what reaction did you get from the record labels, and how did that change?
Our first step at that time was our publisher, which was Warner Chappell, and we had a friend there who we worked with a lot, so we played it to him first. And he said, this is not a song, there's no lyrics into it. They have no verse, no chorus, there's nothing.
No singing.
No singing.
Nothing.
It's not interesting. It won't be a single.
Oh.
This is what he said. For some, I don't know how it exactly happened, but a girlfriend of someone we know gave it to her girlfriend who worked at Polydor. And she was totally into it. This is the strange things which sometimes happen. She's still there. She's running the Motor label today in Berlin, Petra Husemann. And she listened to it and she said, I love it. This is great. We have to do it.
And her husband was Tim Renner.
Yeah.
They don't with you. But he didn't like it. Oh.
He didn't like it, but he convinced him to release it because he was into indie music. He liked
Element of Crime
and stuff. So he was not really into dance music. But he said, if you want to do it, we do it. So he released it
around Christmas.
Yeah, around Christmas, and then nothing happened in the first 2 weeks, which was at that time was a bit of a tricky thing because if it didn't work out immediately, it never worked out normally. But then for some reason, some clubs picked it up in January 92 and played it and played it and played it. And all the DJs wanted to play it. And we gave it to a DJ promoter, like white copies of the song. And then, it became a hit in the clubs without being proper. It was released, but no one was talking about it. So it just happened. We still can't really tell you the exact story because it came from nowhere. It just happened.
And within 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks,
it was number one in Germany. And we
one.
thought this can't be possible. What's going on here?
Yeah. And then we did the video, and we got the contact to Bavaria.
Yeah, and then it started going really, really big.
And then we had this original 35 millimeter cinema format, which was excellent. And then
the footage.
You remember when we saw it on MTV, the quality of these waves and the boat, it was so overwhelming. And
and it was really expensive to buy it because we could only buy the scenes where there were no people involved because of personal rights. We couldn't show any actors of the film, so we needed to cut out, or we didn't do that. Other people did it, but they had to cut out all the parts of the video which were without that you can see people in it, actors.
I mean, I think one of the beauty of that track is that, in a sense, it could have ended up a novelty record, but it was so good that it ended up a classic. And not only a classic, it sort of triggered a new wave. It triggered, in a sense, the commercialization of techno. It triggered that everyone suddenly got into a new type of music.
In Germany, it was definitely the first techno track that made the charts. So. Many people we knew that who were earlier than us in techno. We were not the inventors of techno, but we invented the first commercial techno record. So many people hated us for this. They said, they destroy techno, it's underground and stuff. But we were not. It was not our idea to destroy anything. We just did it because we liked it. So yeah, and then MTV picked it up, as you know, and then it became even bigger than it was already. So
how did that change your lives at that time? Because up till that point, you hadn't had the explosive hit.
yeah,
And there you are, you make this track, and suddenly it's so massive, it's incredible. And it has, I presume it has a double effect. First of all, it's very satisfying to have a hit and fulfilling, and you think, okay, we really achieved something. And then there's the other thing is like, what the fuck do we do now? And the other thing is within U96, obviously problems must have been arising. So can you talk to me about how that all operated for you?
Yeah, I mean, in the first place, we had no problems at all. We were just celebrating all day. We thought this is everything we always wanted. We were professional musicians before that. So we could live off our music before we had this boat, because we did a lot of like studio work, and we had this Ritmo de la Noche song, which made quite some money already at that time. It was a bigger hit than Das Boot in the end. So over the years,
Okay, but you must admit everybody bought a car.
yes,
Come on.
we started. Yeah, we were crazy. I mean, we were like getting out of nowhere, and started buying a car. So, but never mind. I mean, everyone does this, I think, in the first place. But that was not the intention of being in the music industry.
Yeah. But I remember when we sit together in the studio and brainstorming, okay, what's next? We had the number one. What's the next single? Should we do another film theme, another adventures theme? And then we decided, no, we do something the opposite. Just
hardcore techno.
Hardcore techno, what we call Atari punk. You know, this Atari little computer with a MIDI interface. And this was I Want to Be a Kennedy, half part from Visage, which we ripped, and the other parts are just wild techno, sonic experiments.
Yes.
And yeah,
which was a record company obviously tried to talk us into another film theme. They said, "Oh yeah, it's so big. We have to record something else." And we checked film themes, and we didn't find anything, because we thought, no, we can't do that. It's not interesting. It doesn't come from the heart. It's just to fulfill something. Yeah, we don't want to do that. So yeah, and this is why we did I Want to Be a Kennedy, which for some reason got to number 4 as well in Germany, which is pretty high. And then in France, they combined this track with Das Boot and called it Das Boot Kennedy Mega Mix. So they combined the two singles, and this went to, I think, number 2 in France. It was really big there. So it was a strange thing. We didn't really think about commercializing it too much in the first place in those years. Later it changed. Later we were trying to write more poppy tunes and stuff. But
yeah, but with this Boat and then Kennedy, we saw that we basically can do everything and turn it into music or into sound. And
yes,
this was really exciting. So then it was like a playground, our studio. We just played around,
we jammed,
made some songs out of it, and then we had a new album. And
so there were no bad ideas, in a sense, that someone could come up with an idea, and because it was so outlandish, and you were creating stuff that really was different. It was like, okay, let's have a go at this and see what happens. Was that how you were working?
You can hear that on the first album, because that's not commercial at all. It's just one commercial track on that album, and the rest is like, stuff we like to do at the time, and trying our new computer. We bought a lot of equipment with that money. we had like a studio full of synthesizers, everything you can imagine. So
name a synth from the 90s, and we got it.
So and so we were into this, like fiddling around with all these Oberheims and what we have in RSF modules, and And you can hear it on that record because all these synths are in this record, more or less. I would suggest, I would say, yeah.
That's interesting. I was talking to Martin Phillips, who's a producer. He did Jesus Jones and London Beat, The Beloved, of course. And he was talking about frequencies and how different frequencies can affect the body. And the first time that I realized that music had an effect on the body was going to some sort of techno club, you know, going to the Omen or whatever, and having this almost sort of existential experience because music would have an effect on the body that I hadn't really felt before. When was that evident to you, and how did that relate ever to any music that you made?
A lot. I mean, we as I said, we went to clubs a lot in the early 90s, like 2-3 times a week at least, sometimes more, you know. Even in the week we went to clubs and listened to dance music because we were completely packed by it, you know. It was like grabbing us. So when you go to clubs on a regular basis, you can see which song reflects on reactions of people. So how are they, or which song that gets people to react the best. So we were always listening to that, you know. This is where we heard S Express and stuff like that, which was always like, we said, we need to do something like that, you know, get some breakbeats in and low bass and you know, sub bass lines and stuff like that.
Yeah, but there is no recipe. There's not a clear path, because sometimes you listen to a song in a club and you're flashed because of this great bass, and you can feel it in your stomach. And then there are other songs who sounded quite poor, like our song Ritmo de la Noche, which is awful, and that became a worldwide hit because of the feeling.
But even Coldplay covered parts of it, you know, and we own parts of a Coldplay copyright up to now because they took parts of this song, which is unbelievable. We you know, when that came up, we thought, no, it can't be possible. A friend of ours phoned us from Britain and said, Coldplay took your song, and we said, no, we don't believe it, but it happened. So
and this was all about atmosphere, and not sound, not frequencies, and it's mystic. Music is pure mystic chemistry, alchemy.
And people react differently to it. You know, some people are completely into, say, classical music or rock, indie music or techno, whatever. And all these musics are completely different, but people still react to them because every taste is different.
Yeah, but frequencies are not only in the club or in the producer studio. So sure, you have been in a symphony orchestra play. Yeah, so if you're sitting quite in front and you have 4 double basses and then the timpanis, and this goes directly to the stomach and to your limbic system, and people start to cry. And or if you have a violin, a Stradivari playing, also it's the same. Or listening to a sequencer. Half an hour, and then you go in a state of trance.
Donna Summer, you know, when you listen to the song,
it's great. Yeah,
it's really simple in a way, but then this song takes you after at least a minute. It has got you. Even people who don't like this music must admit that it gets you somewhere.
Yeah, or DAF, Deutsche Amerikaner.
Yeah, there's lots of
one of our favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Ingo, you mentioned Thelonious Monk, and of course, you know, if you think of that jazz, that style of music, it's all about transport.
I to this guy, but my family hates me.
I hate him too. I don't like Thelonious Monk. It's not my cut, but this doesn't matter, you know. His taste, my taste, we combine things, and this is the magic which is still there when we work together, because we still have.
But we did a profit out of this, because when we did this is another story, that when we did this musical 20,000 Miles leagues under the sea, below the sea, under, I don't know, yeah, from Jules Verne. So we had to do some jazz songs for a singer.
Yeah.
And this was not a problem for me because
it was. I just wrote the lyrics, but
and everybody loved it.
Yeah, everybody was into it.
Yeah.
You haven't really ever talked about Alex Christensen leaving. I haven't read anything online. I've never really seen interviews where you've talked about it. I mean, can you tell me what happened, why he left? But not only that, then what were the challenges for you after he left?
Well, in I think 2001, we decided to not work together anymore because it was complicated. I don't want to get in detail because it's not interesting really, because there was lots of things where we didn't agree anymore and stuff. And he was like the main person of U96 anyway out there. People realized they knew him, not us, which is fine. And we decided it was our decision because we always said we are producing and writing the music, so we stay in the studio. But then we decided, it's time to go and do something else. He was like going on with U96. I think he did another album, which we were not involved. So we had a deal with him and stuff. But that was the last thing which happened. And after that, no new U96 stuff came out anymore for, I think, 10 years or more.
Yeah.
Nearly 10 years. And we had a time where we didn't work together.
We did different things. I did film music. You did some other.
Yeah, I did some other stuff.
Yeah.
Is it Tantajo? Is that how you say it?
That's his.
Yeah.
I did some the chill out stuff and yeah.
Exactly, and I was completely out of music for some years. But I did the film stuff. I did an interview with you one day, actually. We had a book format called Erlesen TV. I don't know if you know that.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. That's 2010 or something, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I did that for some years, so because I was not interested in music anymore for some time. But then we met again in, I think, 2014 or so. We met, by chance on the street.
Yeah.
And we talked to each other and said, yeah, we have to do something. U96, we have
because
ideas.
we never had a fight.
No, we had no fight.
But it's just life go different paths. So
yeah,
I was living in south of France for some years, and and therefore.
Yeah, so we met again and we decided to try something.
Yeah.
And then we knew, that it was U96, nothing happened. So we found a solution with our partners at that, like Alex and Helmut was the other one who was he was sort of the businessman around it. And we talked to them and said, we want to do that. We want to reactivate U96 in a different way, because it was like a dead thing lying in a corner somewhere. So, and then we agreed on something and on a deal, and since then we do it on our own and release music on a regular basis, like with Wolfgang Flür and all these.
Yeah.
When did you originally meet Wolfgang? Because I met him at the Popcom in about 96 or something.
Yeah, I met Wolfgang on Popcom, actually, in Cologne.
Then it was that one.
I was introduced to him by a guy we knew here in Hamburg called, what was his name? Lothar Manteuffel. He was in Rheingold, This is a German wave band. And we know him pretty well. So, and I was with him on the Popcom, and he introduced me to Wolfgang. And so we got in contact and we talked. We didn't talk about making music together. It was just we liked each other. So, and then this is how the idea came about. We talked about it and said, let's call Wolfgang and ask him if he would be into doing something together.
Like a sort of concept album.
Yeah.
Playing with the legacy of Kraftwerk, and he as a drummer and us as an early techno pop pioneers. So maybe something interesting comes out, and then we when
and
we
it was a
swapped
good
ideas.
it was really
cool.
nice working with him. I mean,
what did Kraftwerk mean to both of you, though? I mean, the thing is, Kraftwerk was, you know, obviously, if you're an electronic artist, Kraftwerk are, you know.
Also for us, I mean, it was one of
Sure.
our biggest influences, obviously, like for everyone.
Definitely, yeah.
You can't
You
say
said
anything
it,
else
so
than that.
nothing to add. So yeah.
But this was Transhuman, which was this concept album. And in a way, and I think it's fair to say that, because I mean, Wolfgang used tracks like Zukunftsmusik on his then magazine One, didn't he? So, and I think what's interesting there is that I think in a lot of ways, some of the credit must go to you in actually bringing Wolfgang to this new era.
Yes, that's what he says himself, because he was not really doing like pop music. He released some albums with the Yamo thing, and I did a remix for him earlier as well of one of the Yamo beat something, I can't remember the name, beat something with beat, and that was the first collaboration. And after that, when we talked to him about Transhuman, he was not really singing before, and we said to him, Wolfgang, you must sing. You know, we think you could sing that because it's easy to sing, like Zukunftsmusik.
And you have this great Düsseldorf accent, which is very Kraftwerky. So if he speaks and he looks like Kraftwerk and he speaks like, then
so we got him to sing the first time in his life, and this was really cool, and he loved it. So
and also Wolfgang was very careful or a bit afraid to do something Kraftwerky.
Yes, that's
therefore
true.
his own stuff is very much apart, so that has nothing to do with Kraftwerk. And we say, no, it's your legacy, and we are fans, so just let's play with these images.
He was obviously part of the sound of Kraftwerk, you know, in his drumming and all this. So this was a major influence on the sound of Kraftwerk. So and I think we took a bit of the fear he had about sounding too much Kraftwerky. And we like the result until now. So we are still fans of this work with him. So,
or you're working with him again, or you've worked with him again, and got tracks coming out on his latest album, Times, and I'll be talking to him again soon. And there are two tracks that you've been involved in, I think, Planet in Fever and Sexerciser.
Yes.
And these are also with Emil Short.
Yes. But
so tell me about him and working with him.
We don't really know him. I met him briefly on the Popcom one day, but we don't really know him. So he works with Wolfgang, and he was involved in, I don't know what he exactly did on that song. I think he wrote some of the lyrics or so. But it was the collaboration between us on those songs was like we sent files back and forth. Hamburg, Cologne, Cologne, Hamburg, you know, and so these songs came about.
Where do you think you've taken the sound of Wolfgang from the stuff that you did with him that was on Magazine One?
Oh, it's hard to say. You have to ask Wolfgang, to be honest, because we don't think about, did we take it somewhere? We were just inspired by his legacy and the work he did with Kraftwerk, and as well his own stuff, of course. And he liked what we did, so this is how it came about. You know, he would always say, he told me on the phone, I am a fan of the U96 music. And I said, oh, this is interesting. I wouldn't have guessed so.
Until we had this little concept. So the Kraftwerk, U96, and then we have an original member, and that's us. So, and then let's do something, but nothing more. There's no philosophy.
So, no.
So, but just one thing that we try to go back to our roots, to the first album, to make the album and the work very playful.
And if you listen to Transhuman,
Flashy,
you can tell it's not a U96 album because,
No.
and this is what we like, because this is back to where we started from. We always like to get on or do something which sounds different, but sometimes you can't do it because the fans you have say, oh, we don't relate to that, or we don't understand what you're doing. So we like collaborations a lot. So we still collaborate with techno DJs and people from other genres because it's always exciting again. We're not stuck to something.
I think it's amazing that that you have these 10 years out, you meet by chance, and then you realize the initial feeling of why you got into music, I presume, in the first place. So where does U96 stand today, and what's coming up for you?
Well, we will, by the end of this month, we will start working with Daisy D again. I don't know if you know her.
Right. You remember?
I remember from Viva, of course.
Yeah.
She sings, she sang one of our biggest hits called Love Religion at the time.
Yeah, I remember that.
We put out a remix. We re-recorded the track with her recently, and we put it out. And then we decided to do more because it was such a nice thing to work with her again after all these years. And we're still like good friends. And
she got a great voice still. So
she's got a fantastic
nothing
voice.
Changed.
Yeah.
And
we'll record new stuff with her now by the end of the month. This is where we're going to this year, I suppose.
Yeah, it sounds exciting. And
what comes up, you never know. If we meet some interesting other people, we will work with them because we are like that.
Yeah.
We don't stop.
Well, listen, it's been brilliant talking to you, Ingo Hauss and Hayo Lewerentz. I want to thank you because I think it's really important to thank people who have contributed to popular culture and been part of not only my life, but obviously people who watch this, being part of their lives. And it's no small feat having, a successful career. Everyone knows that. It's not easy. And to actually put something out there and bravely and have a massive success is really great. And I'm so glad that you're continuing with the legacy of U96 and all the other things you're doing. So from the bottom of my heart, thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you too, because for us, you're a legend too. So for us, it's like talking to one of our legends.
Yeah.
There is an interview I recommend. Down there is where you can find all the podcast interviews. And here is where you can connect.